Okay, so welcome. I am hoping that we will have a few people online as well as in the room today. This is trying to speak to the fact that you guys are all in the job search mode right now. So I'm calling it strategic job search, kind of for a reason, because I think you're kind of in a search that's on many levels. You know, what is my niche expertise? Who's going to hire me? Where's my job? So we're going to talk all about that. And then also, as you know, I think a job is not a career, and a career is not a way. Which is why I look at you guys later and so much at the beginning. So the strategy is to be thinking long term as well as short term. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. There's navigation, which means that we have a changing terrain. We're going to talk about that, right? I mean, there's change in the global economy, there's change in the environment, there's change socially, all around the world, global to local, back in. So there's that, and then there's negotiation, not just your own negotiation, but what you have to negotiate in terms of values, yours, other people's, and how it is you move forward to find your niche areas and so forth. So we're going to talk through all of that, but that is the rationale for the title. Okay? And I guess I want to start with, how do I do this? Let's see.
Click on the slideshow.
Slideshow. Where do I do that?
Just click on this thing.
Here, over here?
Like you can use your mouse.
Here?
No.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm on a learning curve with a smart board in the room and GoToMeeting, and I'm trying to, I'm going to be working with people in the room and also people online, so forgive me if I'm, learning. But this is, technology, right? It changes every day. It's another one of those areas of change. Anyway, so you guys have heard me say to you, what is your niche? Right? You were here, you did intensive study, you went away, you worked on projects, you came back, presented, and I said, okay, so going forward, what is your niche expertise? What is it that you are going to try to communicate out into the world of change that we're facing to find that job so that next time it's not an unpaid internship, right? And so here's just that little thing. You've seen this before, Evan, I know, but I know so many people have not been attending these things, so I want to make sure we revisit this because this was at the front end of your program. I got in front of you and I said, okay, let's do some mission building, right? What's your profile? What's your values? What's your strength areas? What do you want to do? I mean, try to work on a sensibility of that. And then you've been putting that to the test as well, okay? Okay. But then we talked a little bit, too, about the fact that you're here to school for sustainability. And so navigation has got tricky. It's not linear anymore, right? We've had, I think, Kevin, you came to me and said, hey, nobody's paying attention to my resume. Right? What is wrong here? Well, part of it is we've got to figure out the roadmap that has really been changing in terms of what's going on in the world of organizations and job creation, and then how do you fit yourself into that, right? And specifically sustainability, it's a pretty broad idea, and we talked through more about everybody that comes at it from a different point of view, right? So you've got environmental, you've got social, and then you've got all these little intersections, socio-environmental, the environmental economic, the, socio-economic, right? And then sustainability is somewhere asking you all as next generation leaders to know kind of what's going on from all of those points of view, how they intersect, and it asks you to really understand that ecosystem of change as it is mutually influential, right? So policymakers are going nuts over this. Businesses are going, what? I have to think about the environment? Really? I was working more comfortable with just my one bottom line. Now I got to think triple. Excuse me? The social, the environment, people go, what? There are humans on the planet? Right? Oh, the Anthropocene. I get it. Right? Do you know what I mean? And we talked about last time that business is starting to use the word ecosystems, which deals from the environmental. So we're seeing the people do this. They're learning, they're questioning, they're trying to understand and figure it out. But in the points of change, there's this sort of deconstruction, reconstruction, and that's why things get confusing and a little messy. And it impacts your job search, doesn't it? Because it's not as clear exactly, but you can clarify it. So this was sort of the map we showed you earlier that I revisit so that you understand that you are in the context of a process. This is intentionally an inside-out process, which is why we didn't start with the job, we started with you, right? We started with, who are you? Because there are a million jobs in the world. You're going to go online, you're going to go searching, and you throw your resume at whatever, and you come back going like, I sent out 100 resumes, and I never got any word back. Well, there's a reason for that, right? Because you weren't being targeted and clear about what, what can you do for me, and why do you want to work here? Those are those two essential questions. So we did sort of some niche, sort of areas that might match you. You kind of went off into your practicum, seeing about that, learned something about where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, so forth, where your opportunities. We're still learning that. It's part of that change process. We've been working on your resume. We worked on it before you went. We're working on it now to revise it forward, because it's always, resumes are a document that represents your history, where you've been, but you have to turn it into a marketing forward idea of, and what are you going to go do, and what is the value you're now able to bring, and what can you get paid to do, right? That whole thing. The professional development plan, we started here with a learning plan. I keep pushing on the idea that this learning and professional development and integrating these things is where you're not just going to go to class and do your assignments and get your A, because it's going to be there, right? What's going to be important is to translate that out into the world. And they measure it differently. They measure it in terms of competencies and leadership, and we're going to talk about that. And that's why we had presented on the marketing you, what does that mean, and how has that changed, and what's the role of social media and all of that. So for those of you that think it's that, revisit that information, but we're going to touch on it again today. The professional networking, Evan, you have been to a professional network, right? And you found that to be kind of, what did you see there? Other people were there, right?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about the role of network in DC especially?
One, it's a process of everyone wants something, and exchange someone to give something. So first you have to, as you say, kind of start people's egos and keep the discussion about them first, and try to offer up some connections or advice or whatever you can tell them first.
Yeah.
That usually people do show some interest in you, and like give them.
Yeah. And it really is often, if they know you and you have a card, follow up. That's that thing we said.
Yeah.
What is it, call up, which is sometimes online, you figure out where people are going to be, you show up, and then you follow up, right? So we talked that through a little bit. A lot of folks are doing that. The niche project was your practicum. There's networking you did within your organization. For you, India, and, here we're learning about Tanya. We're learning about each one. Every one of the students here at SIT is actually coming at sustainability very much on the social side, but still with a variety of niches, right? So that means figuring out what that is going to be that builds your expertise. And I would argue now, you guys, as you're looking at capstone, becomes even more important, because this is, the old-fashioned word we used for it was thesis, which is you do a lot of research, you're analyzing the problem, and you're really proposing solutions, and it often leads to more deep research. It certainly will lead forward into ongoing inquiry and processes of learning in the context of communications, because this is part of how people are figuring things out nowadays. So it's another reason why you've often heard me talk about the board of advisors. Should not just be an academic advisor, but should be professional advisors. So part of that networking is figuring out who's in the room that actually you could transform an acquaintance into someone to talk to, and you've done that with, I know, Chemonics, and a bunch of people have reached out to some of our alumni. Sometimes the alumni reach back, and they come to do that, and it's really fun to find the people in the world who really are interested in the same kinds of issues and problems that you are. And if you don't know them, this is the moment to expand your network toward what you are interested in. And people love to be asked, like you said, about themselves and about what they're studying and working on, because they're working on it, because they're passionate about it. They're happy to share. But it takes that initiative. The presentations and conferences you guys presented here, that's going to lead forward as you become a niche knowledge expert. So, and then you'll see over onto the right, we're looking forward at applying to jobs. And if you've done some presentations, those presentations can be pieces of a portfolio that you then can present in the context of applying a job. So this, you can see that there is a progression, it's logical. We're actually doing it, it's amazing, right? There's actually method to the madness around here. Okay. So when I say strategy, this is a little bit like, what does that mean exactly? People throw that word around quite a bit. I'm going to just make this so I can see it better. And so I'm showing you this because it looks businessy, and you guys aren't particularly MBA students necessarily. Some people are. Maybe some people who will view this video are business people, but the fact is, it doesn't matter whether you're in government, you're commercial, nonprofit, education. Education is big business, right? So everybody's got an internal environment, organizational culture, the human resources, organization, physical. These are things you need to know about because if you're going to lead, you're going to have to manage all these parts, whether it's at a project level, program level, department level, organizational level. And so, but the internal can sometimes be like, oh, all we're thinking about is what's going on here on the 11th floor in our little tiny world, right? But you walk outside in DC, and there's like a whole external world out there that's impacting what you're doing in here, and you better know about it, right? And that's the planning long-term, not short-term. You guys are young, so, you know, what are you going to be doing at 45? What's the world going to be doing when you're 45, right? So strategy is a little more long-term planning about, you know, thinking about all of these forces, how they interact, the policies, some of your policies, some of your more emphasizing socioeconomic things. I think PODS, looking at poverty, right? What are the systems around that, right? The other people really looking at, I have one of our former alumni went off to do environmental law. So she came here and she looked at sort of social justice issues, she was interested in sustainability, but then she was like, hey, wait a minute, you know, if we're going to do policy, that has to be negotiated very often with business. So I'm going to go better understand how the corporate side looks, and I'm going to look at environmental law and what happens in the compliance or the trade-off. So this is that figuring out that niche, and sometimes it takes more than one round of a class to kind of get there, right? And so we know that. But so that is kind of just to give you a view on that. There is this, I don't know if I can make this happen, but I tried to get tricky here and show you this quick MBA. Let's see if I can make that show for you. For anybody who's not an MBA, oops, did I make it happen? Oops, there it is. Okay, so I pulled this up just for a minute. So strategic planning is something that's really common in business, and it just follows this. You know, I talked to you about a mission and what are your objectives, what do you want to do, and environmental scanning. This is the way business thinks about it. So you have strategy formulation. And so what I'm proposing to you is that this is actually true for your career as well. Okay? So now I'm going to have to figure out how to do it now that I did that fancy thing. Can I do that? Yeah. Oh, okay, good at this. Okay. All right, so basically then what I'm showing you here is that parallel, right? The parallel between, here's organizational development where, even here, you know, every school and university I've ever worked at for 30 years, or corporate, you know, there's this time of the year you get together and you revisit your strategic plan, right? Are we doing that? You know, I hear a lot of things about NGOs. You guys came back from your practica, and, you know, there was a lot of discussion about the small to the very large growth bank, concern about, hey, when we run out of money, we start to worry more about fundraising, so our mission almost gets subjugated, and we're over here trying to think about fundraising instead of our social mission, our original mission. So revisiting that is very important in organizations, and it gets divided into departments. And so the processes for strategic planning is often, you know, you're pulling everybody's ideas and you're rolling it up and you're trying to get a good statement. We're doing this on the island. You visited the island. We're also an environmental center startup. We've got community members who are going, what is it that we're doing? You know, the board gets together, and these organizational processes happen at the community level. They happen everywhere because it's people getting together, coming at it from different points of view. Anyway, the SWOT analysis you're familiar with. Business looks at it as strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, growth related to market behavior. This has to be true for you because you're going out into a job market. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? We've talked through some of that. The short-term, long-term, one of the problems we have in our economy is that we get stock price and people play in the stock market, right? And they're doing short-term, they're buy, sell, buy, sell. So, but business needs to be thinking long-term. Now they're servicing those short-term stockholders and stakeholders, right? The challenge is really to think long-term, especially in this process of change, where it's like that hockey thing. You know, you got to go where the puck is going to be, not where it is today, right? And that's the challenge of this planning. The marketing and communications is sort of trying to deliver the value we did the marketing you to parallel that, change management, working through your career change, but a lot of these principles are the same, you get the idea, okay? So organizational change, you guys read Dilbert? Love it. Anyway, it says we are hiring a director of change management to help employees embrace strategic changes. Or we could come up with strategies that make sense that employees would embrace change. That sounds hard. You know what you're hearing that? People don't like to have their cheese moved. Don't be changing things, and who's in charge of change? And you're going to change me, or am I in charge of my own change? What's up with that, right? So one of the things that's evolved, we talked about this in the last session of pitched knowledge, remember? Which is that it's a human knowledge economy. You're not producing widgets. You can't push people around like it's like they're pieces of furniture, you know? It matters what your motivation is and what you want to do and what you can do well. It matters to the organization, not just you, and vice versa, right? So this matching. But so the financial resources, we got a lot of force things. I just wanted to list some of them so you could see them. So you've got financial resources, development technology, international competition, all these things. The turnover, we're going to talk a little bit about this. This is a big, big one, closed versus open. And this is the difference between proprietary information versus the open systems and technologies are making you get information anywhere you want to go. When I was young, we didn't have internet. I couldn't really know what a business's mission statement was unless I knew somebody, you know what I mean? And maybe the underlings didn't either because there's usually a gatekeeper in the organization, right? And it's a way to keep everything hierarchical. Now things have opened up, it's facilitating democracy, but there's also some challenges because with the freedom also comes the accountability questions, and so we are really formulating work, mobile global telework. There's still some organizations that don't like this because I don't know where you are and I don't know if you're really working. So then they've got these new monitoring devices, right? So you go online to work and you're up and they can see you that you're on. I mean, yeah, the world is changing. The consulting is kind of become a new way of work. And I sent you guys an article last evening. I know that you get a million emails, but it is worth a read. And it basically says the full-time job is going away. Shocker, because it really goes all the way back and says, hey, you know, this whole full-time 40 hours a week thing, this was formulated in the industrial time. It is kind of changing, right? Particularly because of you guys, because you're young and you're going like, hey, you know what I mean? I got my iPhone. I can be like working. I can go to school. I can be home. I can shop. I can do whatever, right? It's one of the reasons we worry, and why we still try to push back into the compartmentalization, but it's not going to stay there. And so what's happening is you have to develop niche expertise that's mobile and global, and that you can take with you, and you can show up and you can get good stuff done, and you can be not there and you can still be getting good stuff done. So one of the unintended outcomes of the technology, and no doubt Tanya knows this, is it can really kind of suck you into working 24/7. So that thing about boundaries, also personal as well as professional, like they can be work 24/7, but we do that, and then other things suffer, right? And I see things going on culturally now. There was not a cartoon, but a workshop the night, and it was sort of this. I see young people deciding. You go to dinner, and it's like. Is it like blackout or something? Like everybody has to surrender their cell phones so that they're not looking at the phone while they're at dinner with their friends, things like that. Anyway, the short-term and temporary employment has become the trend. And this is a thing where you guys should be aware that there are differences of opinion. The old school and older people are used to a work ethic that is kind of show up, button sharing, if, this is not your moment to be creating, it's not really the best model for you to be doing the work, but they'll still require it as if it's the important thing for productivity. But the entitlement thing, they often think you guys are entitled. Younger people often think that this, citizens of work are just, slow and irrelevant, right? I mean, so it's just, we have to learn from each other kind of thing. So I know I'm going to get everybody in my office, they're going to say, where's my job? And so the thing I wanted to let you understand or help you understand is that you'll go online and you'll look for that job, and the same job you find, 30 million people have access to that same job. So you can imagine, we've heard from some of the HR experts that it's like a bottleneck, right? So they're getting a lot of resumes. It's very hard. It's a lot of time to sort through those things. You've spent hours and hours and hours on your resume. They spend 6 seconds looking at it going, yeah, no, right? This is frustrating. You feel like rejection and like your resume is your life, and you just feel like somebody tossed it aside, right? So the strategies do have to change, and this is a pretty good image because it shows you like the published ones are the ones that are really evident and they're out there and they're findable at a distance and detached and maybe, but there's still going to be issues. The hidden job market, what do you think that means?
It's like internal hiring.
Maybe. What else?
A company can have a create a position for you. If you
Yeah, sure. So where does that mean? It's happening between people and in dialogues, in person, right? And it's so funny because we've got all this technology, but it still is humans who hire humans and get together and talk about it and create a job on the fly and things like that. So that's the thing you need to know. Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who is planning to do a project that's going to start 3 months from now. Maybe you should call them now before there gets to be a published job listing, right? How does that happen? How do you know that? It happens because you got to watch the trends. You got to look at who's aligned with the kinds of things you're working on and make sure you're talking to them and that you're talking to them about what they want to get done at the organizational level, not just at the job level, because the jobs get created out of solutions building, essentially, okay? It's a changed world. So I have this slide I just suggest, because there are publications out there, there's a new geography. What you got here is going to get you there. So when we grew up, it was like, do what you're told, be compliant, get an A, get a C, whatever. And now it's figured out. We're not going to give you an agenda, and your job description doesn't really mean that much. And so we just need you to jump on the team and get stuff done with us, please. And they got to believe that you can do that in a somewhat self-directed way, right? So, and you got to know about these, you got to make this your job to know what is going on around the niche area that you care about. So for me, it's about you guys. I want to look at, how is education changing? How is the career changing? That's my niche. I pay attention. I do a lot of reading and looking and talking to you guys so I can understand not just how the world is changing, but how you guys, what you want is changing, how I help you. That's my niche. I constantly have to be learning. That is an ecosystem. I'm working with MBAs and environmental science sociologists and policymakers, and I also work with older people who are in the later stage of their life, and they want to be creative and be entrepreneurs now, right? So, the principles you can learn and how the ecosystem forces impact your situation, if you can create a sort of bigger picture mind map around the context in which you are navigating. So like you go to another country, you've never been there before, you don't recognize the road signs. If you've kind of been there before, you walked around, maybe you've got somebody who goes with you, right? Somebody networked with this person, they bring you with, bring you along or something, right? You have a map, right? You're going to start to understand the terrain a little better, right? And then what if they close a road? The GIS system says go there, right? You're like, oops, got to change direction. So this is just to be prepared that this is navigation now, right? We can use technology, but there's real world on the ground with people. It doesn't always follow the directions. It's just changing, right? So there's the ecosystem of jobs. And that's happening in intersection with your true life dynamic because you're changing, right? You're a student now, like 3 months from now, you're not. You're just unemployed until you're employed, right? I mean, so it's kind of like everything that's important today changes by way of different context, right? So we're going to think at the project level, not just at the job level. Think about what is it to be next generation leader. So it's how do you think about where things are going. And this was just, you guys saw that I'm doing locally as well as globally in the Chesapeake Bay area because there's a lot of watershed projects bringing together all those stakeholders. Anyway, this old versus new job skills, what are we putting on the resume? Right? I mean, people want to a lot of times put, sort of the task, the thing that was on my job description, but really is that the value that they're looking for? So it's very important to look at the job descriptions and begin to understand that changing environment of what is valuable, right? And I will tell you that just as I just mentioned the role of technology changing the hierarchies that were relevant and the linear processes, and you used to get a job and you used to climb the ladder and you get paid this much, and the next year you got a guaranteed raise and you're going to have a retirement plan and you're good till you're 90, right? That's gone. And you're just supposed to comply. Don't ever think anything on your own. Read the guideline and just do what you're told. No, right? Everything is proprietary. No, right? Because anything you put out online, somebody else can pick up how proprietary. There's efforts to trademark and copyright knowledge, but it gets harder. So this is kind of how it used to look. Now we're seeing the distributed teams. When I say you got to have niche expertise, this is like a skills suitcase. You have to possess an area of expertise, make it your job to learn all the time and know that stuff. Talk to people. That's why I recommend that board of advisors. Just stay on top of what's changing, what's going on. Read articles. Go to find out who the organizations are. Make sure you're reading beyond your textbook. What's going on? Who's innovating? And what hasn't been innovated? What is wrong? Where are the gaps? You want to look at that. All this change cycle is real, and this triple bottom line is where everybody is a little bit confused, right? How do I design for the next 10 years when I'm not quite sure what's going to come relative to the environment? If I'm Coca-Cola, what does that mean? I can't make Coke without water. Well, I think there might be resource wars around water pretty soon. And then we're going to have policy. And then they're going to ask us to measure our impact on the watershed supplies. We're going to have to monetize that. So we're going to have to understand how environmental impact impacts money. What about the people? Because in the ecology world, they care already about biodiversity and stuff, but they're going to have to talk about it in terms of ecosystem services because you can monetize that. So the money's there, but there are other values, and people are learning to do this. But this is also a big change. It's like, this is what it starts to look like. But it's all going green. Do you like that little dynamic? It's all going green. Okay, so it's the renewable energy, transportation. These are areas that are in flux and change where job creation is happening. And they are looking for next generation arts and thoughtfulness about how to innovate solutions. You can take anyone and think about where can you begin to be an innovator of solutions, right? But this idea that interdisciplinary problem solving and niche experts is part of this change process. There we go. So this is what I'm seeing as I'm watching trends, is that 9 billion on the planet, they're going to end up where? In cities. So a lot of this concern for food, water, transportation, right? Energy, this is getting sort of convergent into these ideas of smart design. And so be aware of this, read up on it, understand where your interests fit into this, because money is going. Money, the people who are building buildings are trying to think about greener buildings, right? People who want to go rent a place, if they've learned to care about it, they might want to know there's a farmer's market somewhere they can get fresh produce. How are we going to produce food in these cities? I've got one young colleague, who's looking at aquaponics because it's landless agriculture. So that involves engineering, it's business, it's, so he's figuring out who his partners need to be in his board of advisors to help him do that. It might require grants, it might be a government grant, right? He might work with a nonprofit to help do the demonstration. We might build we're looking at actually a USDA grant, farmers markets to think about, can we bring in aquaponics and can we do this stuff and educate kids, give them better food in the schools, right? So these are all things that are happening in a more convergent way, in a more communal way, and people across the designing. Imagine yourself on a team, a city planning team, or in your community, what role, that's where the leadership starts to happen. So I want to talk a little bit about, like, where are the jobs, right? So how does this happen? And remember, we were a reality check panel, we had people talking a little bit about behind the scenes. They're getting money, and then some people got to go look for the candidate, steal it from somebody else. That's recruiting, right? Sometimes it's sorting through the people who are coming to you, and there are a lot of conditions around it. So it's just important to start thinking, like, as you mentioned, Evan, put your head in the other person's position. We talk about navigation, and there's negotiation, and somewhere in between there's beginning to understand what is their need and what are their processes behind the scenes, right? So what is the process really? It's kind of the thing, and who decides on the candidates? Who do you think decides who to hire? I guess I am. Yeah, like, what are your thoughts right now about how that happened?
Depend on the organization. If it's a small organization, it could just have bosses, but it would have an HR team.
Mm-hmm.
Specific team leaders are deciding if they want on their team.
Committees, technology.
Reality computer program.
Right? So what happens is those filters, sometimes they're filtering out human beings, and it's like this machine, and they don't even know, right? So we had a student who came to me and said, well, there was a recruiter, she asked me to apply, and I applied, and then I wanted to be honest in the application, so it required a master's degree, which I will have in like 2 months. But at the point of application, I just didn't put it in and then of course it filtered her out. It said not qualified. She has everything else and they wanted her. So then it's like, okay, well, how do we get the humans back involved so we can override the system? So just to understand, are cover letters necessary? I hear students all the time, actually all sorts of professions, do you really have to do them? Read them and so forth, but guarantee you they're necessary. They are a writing sample. They're an opportunity to pitch your story. It's a way to connect to humans, because the resume is kind of this objectivized document, and the cover letter can really be okay, and you can send it to people at different levels and so forth. We'll talk about that. There are also different types of letters. So today I was going to do communications, but I think we'll do that in a couple of weeks when we get a little bit more into that. Resumes online, I believe, if you really want the job, don't just do everything you're supposed to do online, but then make it paper and send it to somebody, and it's really nice if it lands in Federal Express on their desk, because they want to open it, right? Somebody said, because it's getting more rare. Again, this is old school, new school, right? I'm going to bypass this because we kind of talked about this, but it's kind of just, this is the job destruction and creation. But I might actually not just tell you like as if I know everything, but show you that there is data out there, right? And so one of the things I thought was interesting is everybody thinks like, oh, it's been terrible. There is job creation, but now they're talking about what's the quality of the job, right? And this is one of the big changes, is there's going from full-time to part-time, and that was the article I sent you guys, is that increasing people are figuring out what's their niche expertise, and you might have multiple part-time kind of consulting roles. I actually have that situation. If people want to work in the United States, you guys are here in DC, but you know what, like everybody's here in DC competing. It might not be the best place for you to find your position. It might be that you need to go to some other state where it's really happening. So what we have up here is, the highest OERs. What are they saying? OERs. Yeah. Okay. So this is the best economy, right? So we are in a very good economy, but you can also look at where a lot of times there's innovation happening over here, right? But there are other issues. They've got environmental issues, so this is where you're getting a lot of problems. This is changing a lot, right? So anyway, it's just kind of a thing to sort of look at what's going on in the overall economy of these areas that you want to go in, and what is being made in those areas, what are they known for, and does that match what you want to create and do, right? Sometimes you just don't want to be limited to your local terrain. Certainly, everything in the United States is global now, it has to be, right? I mean, so for sure, in the United States, this goes back to that thing I was saying, like your job might be at a headquarters here, but you might be traveling and going other places. Your team that you work with might be distributed. So your ability to flex with this and work with this and use your technologies to do this is pretty important. So the contracts change. A lot of times what's happening now is, and this is why the Affordable Care Act became so important in the United States, it used to be very much tied to employer because you're in a full-time job. But now people are doing contractual work, and they might just have you enough hours and they don't have to pay you the benefits, and they don't have to take care of your health care or anything, right? They'll keep just under the line. They're saving their money over here. How are you going to survive, right? So then people, I see people that are working extra shifts or whatever, or they're becoming entrepreneurial. So just be thoughtful about and understand that this isn't a shock. So if you leave here and you get a part-time job, you haven't failed. You just entered into the new world of jobs. But you don't have to stop there. You can be thoughtful about building your expertise portfolio, right? And think about what is your fee for service. What are you worth? That's a hard thing. It's like business unto yourself. What's my mission? What am I selling? Is it a product or is it a service? Who else is doing that service? What's the price point on that service? What do I offer that somebody else doesn't offer? How am I going to do that, right? So this is that niche expertise at KSA. The government is knowledge, skill, and ability. They also have a KSA-O, which is KSA and other. So the other is a lot of times your personality or all these parts that you bring that are in addition to what you narrowly do for the organization. But this layered income sources, that was really especially represented. And I want to encourage you, if you are thinking about consulting or whatever, look at professional directories. So starting with LinkedIn, which is a professional directory, and you're exhibiting your expertise. And when people go wanting to find somebody who knows this stuff, they go there. There's also some emerging websites and places where people are trying to change their recruiting so they can bridge this gap between the talent and the task, right? And so there are places for you to be. It used to be Monster. You put your resume up there. That used to be the model. That's changing. But there are things that are, so I would say for you guys, international development, DevEx. But there's also specific organizations. For example, Land O'Lakes. I have a former student who went there, did a part-time job. It was called an internship. She went in as if she was a consultant. And she was able to do a project that then got very high profile, not just there, but in the whole field of other experts. Now she can be a consultant on a directory. So she can, even if her contract runs out, she can be called again on another contract when there's funding.
Does she work there now?
I don't know if she's still there right now.
Because I just had lunch with
Lisa Renier?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you just everywhere see that whole networking thing. Does that sound like the story she told you?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad I read that right. Anyway, so that's what happens. But again, she was a perfect example of somebody who went in that seemed like it was a substandard arrangement, but really it was a short-term consulting role that is helping her progress forward. So one of the things, I've met with a couple of you guys on your capstone. Do you know what your capstone is going to be?
General idea. So kind of
general idea. So I've had a couple people in, and what I'm finding is it's hard to narrow it down, right? But this is where you go with the niche. It's what is your question? What is your question or concern or thing you want to lead, change, impact, or do in the world of sustainability? And whatever that is, who else cares about that? And you've heard me say that before. Particularly for the capstone, this is just one example of it that I found on Facebook in terms of stakeholder, but you want to almost think about Who's working on this issue in this culture, providing money for that, maybe hiring now, maybe not, but who is concerned about it? Who else, right? What is the role of policy around it? What is, like, let's talk about IT. So every year, I'm an IT person, but I don't even know about it, so I go every year to, by a kind invitation of a faculty member who rocks the stage on this, named Dr. Larry Gordon, and he and his colleague, Martin Lowe, are from this. It's cybersecurity, so it's sort of information assurance. They're working on the finance side, but it's also very much driven by technology, so they've had to start looking at cybersecurity. And so when we do this forum, we get people in there from the FBI, you get IT people, they let me come. I'm like so not any of those things, but I'm like, hey, you know what? It's like human behavior that we need to fashion, right? So we start looking at who are all the people that have a stake in how we use our technology. That might be one thing. Maybe you're going to look at something having to do with that. Maybe it's food. Maybe it's water. Who cares about water? Who cares about energy? Lots of people care about energy. Lots of people don't want oil to go away, right? Why do we not have solar? What's that about?
Yeah. Okay. What I know what I'm interested in, I'm trying to find out how it can meet what employers are interested in. Like,
Yeah.
something that's, when they read the title of my capstone, they will say, wow, yeah, that's.
So let's talk about that. Have you come in? I mean, seriously, I think sometimes it helps to just have a partner to bounce that idea around. And often what I do students or people, whatever, is every one of us, whether we're writing capstone or not, we have to think about what is the thing that drives it, what's my mission, that's the whole thing. And you go out and now you have this technology, Google, right? You can ask that question or get the keywords out of that question. What are the relationships in that? Put those keywords together. Google's algorithms bring up a lot of people in the world are thinking about this that you didn't even know, right? Then you can drill down and then we can look at some of those things and we can do that analysis. In fact, what's free. So basically, this is what's going on behind the scenes. Right? Behind the scenes, they've got a business plan. That's a strategy, right? They're going to recruit talent that they've decided they need and that they have a budget for. And they're going to do, we're doing this right now. We're evaluating some applications for people, and this is the whole process. And then you get them, and they're going to onboard them, and then they're going to move into this performance because why are we watching everything humans do? Because this is a knowledge economy. We have to build that knowledge by doing training. So this is a new job area that wasn't as before. Now it is. And not only that, but you got a lot of people retiring. Who's going to fill those jobs? It's the young people, right? It's kind of cool if the senior people can be working with the younger people, right? And then this whole area is the negotiation, right? So the older people get paid more, but they're retiring. And when you guys come around, they don't want to pay you that much. That's how they're going to get salary savings, right? But you want to be able to establish your value because whatever's your base rate going in, that's going to be, even if you get a percentage on whatever that base rate was. So this negotiation process becomes very important. It's important why you have to learn what the market is. But this critical skills gap analysis, this is giant. This is where they don't have it in-house, so they'll hire somebody outside that they won't pay benefits to. Right? So as we talk about what's their mission, when you're doing your job search strategy, your navigation, online, in person, figuring out, think about what is going on in the world, what is the issue, what's going on around the issue that you're owning, what are they doing well and where's their gap, because that's where you can lead, and what can you specifically do to help them succeed again and again, and then kind of have a sense of what their budget and tech is. So if you're looking at a startup, you can be sure they do not have money. Is there something else that you could get out of it? Like, maybe I would work on a project for 6 months and I'd be able to rock that and take it with me, and then I get paid, right? And if I go to a large organization, then let me do it. So there's some trade-offs that you'll make, right? It's about solution building, short-term, long-term. So again, you heard me talk about portfolios. This is something I want to try to work with you guys on. It's not just academics. It's not just do the paper and get the A in class. It's how you turn it into a professional presentation. So what you did for practicum papers, be condensed down and turned into maybe one of those star stories, right? Where you do, what was the situation I was looking at? What was my role, task? What did I do? Which tells how fabulous I am, right? That's what you are, and what were the results? And you put a few photographs in there, and you do it as a one paper. It goes with your resume in the Federal Express envelope with a bio, and now you look like a human with a story and with pivot, and there's other things you can do depending on your profession. And they always want to know, and I'll tell you every time in interviews, but also in that first scan of things, is the best proof of what an employee will perform is what they've done in the past. So that's why when we look at the resume, we want to pull out whatever it is you've done, not your whole life story, but what you have can show and measure results as much as possible that you have done something like that in another context before. That proves it. And then you'll find, because people don't spend very much time and try to do a statement that's like that, I can pitch you these skills and abilities right off the bat, and I think we came up with good ones for you. I worked yesterday with Marie. We worked with Christian. So, Tanya, I'll work with you too if you want to. So walk around your head thinking about this, right? This whole negotiating, the win-win-win. So it's not just negotiating, what do I want to get paid versus what you want to pay me, but it's also, how do I negotiate between these sustainability values? And how am I going to lead that? And how am I going to figure out what the solution should be? And who can I learn that with? And how can I take that to my capstone so that if I do a problem question, I'm going to write a thesis that begins to suggest the solution, and then the exhibit that comes from that can go to the interviews. And perhaps on a WordPress portfolio, we don't have really great chances, right? Better guess, the more we want to show it. So this is just, as we've been talking about it, so this is the factors, of course, that are influencing whatever is the situation that you care about, right? Who are the stakeholders? Let's pull out an example again. Let's look at water. I mean, water is giant, absolutely giant, because it totally impacts food. It's part of. Let's talk about this. It's part of everything. Hygiene, public health. It's part of everything, right? And we've got big problems with distribution of water, clean water especially. And now they're looking at new technologies to say, for California, for example, which has major water crisis, and there's sort of this water everywhere, not to drink. And they're saying, well, can we turn the salt water into clean drinking water? We might need to engineer that, right? And I've been actually researching this myself, these little things that are like when you go camping, hiking, and backpacking, it's like survival gear. And then there's these other companies that are doing international development where people all their water, and there's a way for them to filter and purify it so that they can have something different. So these are things that are creating new products, new services, new distribution supply chain. It's also creating resource wars. People are going to be arguing about against tap water, right? The big companies, that Coca-Cola company, if there's an argument about water, who do you think is going to win? People in Nicaragua who have their water on their lands, or what? Somebody who wants that water. So we really have some challenges, and it is environmental, and it is economic, and it is social. But this is why, think about whatever your problem is. What do you want to work on? How do you create that win-win-win between those sustainability values? But also, what do you want out of your job, and how do you get a win-win with the employer? You know what I mean? And maybe the other win might be your family. You know what I mean? Like, I want what I want out of my job, and I want to make sure that I deliver value to the organization, but my family wants something from me too, and it has to work for them too. So this negotiation that we got is not just about money. It is about money, but it's about a bunch of other stuff. So one of the things that I think is a good thing is in the world of development and navigation of these things, there's been, when I was coming through, there were re-engineering methodologies, always problem-focused. And that's why I'm really encouraging you for your capstone, don't stay just let's all bitch and moan about the problems of the world, we're all going to die, right? Instead, you can really look for where are there strengths that we could begin to partner better with, and we could build a solution together that we haven't been able to do because maybe things are too compartmentalized or something, right? So if we start changing our lens. We start looking at what are the strengths on my team? What are the strengths in my community? What are the strengths that, are going on around my issue? And I just need to like pull those strengths together and be part of that strength. That is a different attitude, and there is a way to do that solutions building, right? So this is pretty funny, right? Because it's that deficit focus. Have you ever been out with somebody like that? Yeah, but person, right? And then there's like, oh, wait a minute. So where are you looking, So you can learn pretty easily within an organization and also externally around your issue as you do your research, as your experts are working on what the best practices are today. It's sort of hilarious, though, because best practices are often sort of just what we keep doing. We think it's the best practice because we've always done it this way, but that isn't actually necessarily the thing that will take you forward. It's that what got you here might not get you to there kind of thing. So question this. Be a person who questions and don't hear the arguments that you'll get back, because we do. Find the gaps, be thoughtful about it, where are the gaps, and this is like part of consulting and whatever, but I'm just showing you there are processes. And if we take it to your capstone, it would be something like you're reviewing the existing system. You're looking at kind of what's going on and where are the gaps, and you want to sort of develop what are the needs, what are the business needs. I'm comparing potential solutions, right? I'm seeing some issues. What does this imply? Here's what I would recommend. This might be an actual guideline for how you organize your. I think this is what is your proposals. Did I hear somebody come on?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. So what are the opportunities? So as you're looking at all these different stakeholders around your issue, you will notice overlaps. And that might be called best practices. But you'll also look at where they keep running into issues. Know where their projects are and where they might not have the staff that they need. And it's really great if you can suddenly say, I can work on that for a little while I'm not working. And sometimes that, you won't do that forever, but, where you can suggest yourself in, right? And maybe they are thinking very closed system and you can be the open system. They think, hey, there's a thing over here, right? Like, we can use GoToMeeting. We have a problem, right? Can we solve the problem? Let's do it differently, right? I can make everybody come here and sit button chair. Why do I do that? Because it's often be on like online. So how can you be collaborative solutions? So we look for partners internally, externally. That was part of that original strategic plan. Let's think about the entrepreneurs. So I would say it's leading in the gap. The entrepreneurs are leading in the gap. So it used to be Steve, God rest his soul, but he did change the world, didn't he? And he saw a gap. Do you know what gap he saw? No?
Okay.
Well, in my view, he saw that we had clunky, bad-looking devices that weren't very, very much servicing, and our experience with them was just entirely frustrating. And so he decided that we could have beauty and function put together. And when he created more beautiful, functional, experiential devices for people, it flipped the market. And it made it so that whoever serviced your internet, you got whatever clunky device they gave you. But once all the iPhone, iPads, all these things came out, then all the service providers wanted to get connected because now Apple's product was driving the market. But he innovated on the basis of a problem that he saw, and he created a solution. So now we've got this guy. Do you know who this is? Yeah, so everybody's paying attention to him because he's like the new Steve Jobs. And so what is the gap that he's bringing? What gap does he see, and what do you think he's innovating?
Man, a lot of gaps. So in pretty much every sector. But with like space travel, for example, it was all done by governments. There was almost no private companies that were doing this. So we came in and said, it's a private company, you could do it for cheap, and it wouldn't have to depend on the Russian government or getting our astronauts in space.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And also renewability.
Well, yeah, I mean, energy, you know, has anybody watched his, he's got that, is it like that?
The Powerwall?
Yeah,
Yeah, just last month.
yeah. And it turns out he's the chairman of on the board of Solar City, which I think is led by a family member, his brother or something, right? And I've been paying a lot of attention. I should call them up, and I wanted to learn more, so I talked to those people. I made best friends with this woman named Sheila in Las Vegas, and we, you know, and I'm actually going to go solar on our house. We're going to put the things on, but we learned that they figured out some business models that make it easier for people to access this. There is a win-win involved. They certainly are going to make money, but they do feel better because making it accessible to people to reduce their bills and get off the grid a little bit. They are coming up with a battery to help you store what you produce. You're feeding in the grid. I mean, so it's kind of social, environmental, economic. That is somewhat mutual, right? So this is just, these are product type things, but there are also service solutions, right? Online learning was actually developed a little bit as a solution for adult learners who couldn't get to classes and couldn't, you know, moms who, that's how I ended up originally starting to do adult learning because I was a single mom and I began looking at what are the solutions, right? What's it going to be 10 years from now? I wrote a thesis on how technology was going to change it and it did, right? I should publish that. Anyway, partnerships is a big thing on the stage. So your ability, this is going to be, you can be paid money to be a good partnership builder, and you are pretty good at this, I think, Esther. So this is just an example because I think we like to talk about principles and it doesn't feel real. But this is another example, you know, affordable housing is a problem. Food, clothing, shelter, we need to be able to deal with that, right? So we're seeing that this is increasingly, we had, what caused our big 2008 crisis? Oh my God, housing market, right? Because it was very economically driven. Well, now they're figuring out we need some balances and we need to bring partners to it. And we're going to engage the community in this because they don't have a market without the community. That's a lot of things that's going on right now too, is that community can drive the changes. And I think a lot of our changes are going to happen. So as you're thinking about you, where are your partners? Think about your issue. What are the strategies and solutions you want to build? Who knows about that? Is it just your faculty advisor? Is that the only person on the planet that knows about this? No. Right? I'll go talk to Phyllis. Phil probably doesn't know about it either. but Phyllis will encourage you. Here I am, right? Is there somebody in your family, friends who knows about that? Call them up, right? But look, there's all these other, because of technology, we have all this access. Are there conferences, are there professional associations where they group people together who know about this stuff? And you can go learn, and maybe you can ultimately present, right? So I want to really strongly push, encourage you to go to not just Washington Network, but really niche-specific professional associations. And if you are trying to learn the other side of sustainability, like you're a specialist in civil society, but you don't know anything about climate change, go to an ecological kind of conference and learn about it. Or go online and learn what you can, or read some books, whatever. Because some of it's published, but some of it isn't. Some of it is so contemporary and changing. It takes being in the space and talking to people and seeing change happening. So this is the other thing. We talk about next generation leadership. I don't think we can throw that word around too much because, you know, we're working on being next generation knowledgeable professionals in a particular area, right? You might not be leading yet, but maybe you are. Maybe you'll be a thought leader. If you take the capstone seriously and you really are a solutions builder, it doesn't matter about your age. You know, how old was Gates when he was all hanging out in his garage? You know, he's a pretty young guy. So it's not about your age, it's not about your seniority, and I heard it said once, and I thought this was quite good, that 15 years of experience is not necessarily 3 times better than 5. It depends on what the experience is in. So it's just because somebody's old and they've been doing it, they may be very limited and only know what they know and not know the other things. And I'm really sharing with you, like, you need to know something about the total system. So this is the keywords here, change and innovation dynamics. This is what we're talking about. And this is what you'll have to lead. You have to understand the processes of change and innovation. Are you, anybody who's in social innovation track will be sort of looking at this, but we kind of all have to understand we all are creative. People sometimes say, oh, I'm not really creative. Oh, yeah, you are, just not maybe with a paintbrush, right? Creativity is in all of us, and we do have to sort of, and we are moving through change, and organizations are organic. If you think about the word organization, it's actually organ. It's an organic collection of beings who are bouncing off of each other and hopefully moving in some common direction to get stuff done, right? Because we're in a knowledge economy, that's really important to be matching talent to tasks. There's nothing worse than there's nothing worse, I don't think, than spending 60 hours a week of your life in the wrong job. That's why I do what I do. It will pervade your experience and everything else, your identity for that matter. So it's really important, and this is why I try to work with you guys to start with your inside and go and create this strategy and bring you onto it through your creativity, through your knowledge, your niche expertise, in collaboration with organizations, on teams, not afraid of change because it's going to be changing. And if you want things to be static, you will be sad because it's not good. So learn to think of it as an opportunity, right? Okay. I have a colleague, and I want to share this with you because I would like to be able to bring it to you if you would like to learn more about yourself and how to work with others in the context of leading change and innovation. And this is the most simplified version because it gets a little complicated, but it's called Cohero. This is a friend of mine, John Lewis, his PhD. He's written a book. He works with a partner. But the idea here is instead of leadership being top-down, right, like I'm your boss, so I'm the leader, right? Am I a good leader? It depends. There's a line I've always loved that said, if you think you are a leader and nobody's following, then man, you are just taking a walk, right? And so what happens is there is a dynamic of change. Not every person is the right leader for the right moment in the dynamic of change. So if I'm like, remember I was laughing and saying, I'm not very good at staying inside the box, right? I'm really ever since I was a little girl, I was that way. So I tend to be, there are different kinds of profiles, and we can get into it more, but it's the idea that I'm probably up here, investigation and idea, like I research a lot, I come up with ideas, I'm pretty much of an innovator. When they did the profile on me, I was like an innovator. But that can be a problem if I don't collaborate with people who are then going to say, yeah, well, okay, but I'm going to expect this as a standard for how that's going to play out. And, okay, well, if we take it on as an organization, we have to put it through some systems, and how are we going to make it a stable system? And I might have to talk to somebody who really knows how those systems work, right? And then, oh my gosh, when there's a problem, who's going to be the problem solver and really raise the bar and say, hey, this isn't exactly working so great? Or, hey, I have a new idea. Or, hey, the disruption is coming from the outside in. There's somebody who calls it, right? This is like the, danger person, right? And we don't want to hear from that person because we want everything to be peaceful. And I'm liking my automation over here, right? But I'm kind of being that for you today. I'm saying, change is happening. And I'm challenging you to be an investigator and to take this into a change and innovation cycle. So your strengths we can learn about. How do I get it? The strengths we can learn about by giving you an assessment. So if you get interested in this, let me know. The fees are very small compared to other leadership assessments. And I'm certifying this with my colleague, and he would actually love to come and bring a presentation to you guys. But you would have to come. You have to be more than 3 people in the room here. But it is pretty cool, and it's he's getting standing room only presentations at MBA schools and stuff. So this is something you would have an opportunity to do. And not spend $2,500 on it, probably. I mean, that's a rare opportunity. So we can talk about that. I think the other thing I wanted to mention is that in all this world of change and the dynamics and all the stakeholders and all the sort of ways that you got to come at this, and you got to write online, you got to text. I mean, I have to do cultural change with you guys because I used to use a phone that had a cord in the wall, right? Now I evolved and I got a cell phone, and then I found out that people don't answer the phone, they text. So then I had to get a phone that had this little pull-out keyboard, and I had to figure out how to use my thumb. And then the iPhone thing, right? So now it's like you touch the screen, and and then there's all these things that you can do. and then the power goes out on the phone, and I just don't understand. But anyway, so I'm just saying, so there's adaptation, right? That's an example of change. But we talk a lot about the cross culture. So another thing that's really changed in the workplace is we have people from all over the world who work together at all ages. You know, gender, we have this on the stage, there's a lot of changes that are going on. So we are a school of social justice. We know about thinking about cross-cultural diversity and communication and change. But I want to challenge you that when you're talking to like a scientist of ecosystems, that's a culture change. You go into a business organization out of here, that's a culture change, right? They come here, that's a culture change, right? Because there's like different languages and things. You go to Baltimore, that's a culture change from DC, right? So we have to really understand that this happens within organizational cultures and so forth. The modes in media, there's different styles, different communication types. We're gonna, if you'd like me to, I can do a thing on, I was gonna do a one size does not fit all kind of communications workshop that looks at how do you adapt to who you're writing to. So if you're writing to someone high level, formal, always formal, right? Is that always appropriate? Is that type of thing, right? But modes in media, options have made things change. Everything has gotten a lot more visual. And while it's gone informal, you should not always be informal. The personal polish, you know, nowadays you can go to a restaurant and you can just wear whatever. I mean, you have to wear a shirt. You have to wear some sort of shoes, right? But you know, this is a communications thing because we are in a visual world, so we have to communicate, right? And cross-culturally, it can matter what you wear, right? So we want to be thoughtful about that in this space as well. Contract negotiations and values. I feel like you guys are really going to get down to it, and you're going to want to know how much am I worth and what is the salary going to be. But I just wanted to remind you on the front end that it's not just the money. Because on the very front end, we did the values assessment. And a lot of people wanted things like, well, I want work and family balance. Or I want to live, where do you want to live? DC. You want to live in DC. What are the trade-offs you have to make to live in DC? It's so expensive. It's expensive. There's traffic. Right? Why do we like DC?
Network.
Close to work.
Close to work. Pretty cool. Always something going on. Right. So this is, and in that vein, there are some articles about how younger people are going to cities. We're talking about the sustainable cities. Young people are market drivers. They're going to cities. They don't want to have a yard they have to mow. They don't want to have to own a car. Right? It's much better for meeting people. Right? It's way more interesting. You're probably get a little higher wage. But you're also going to spend out the higher wage too, right? And then it's what are the trade-offs in terms of what do you want your money to buy? So this is just to think about when you're going into negotiations, you'll find that organizations are making trade-offs with the negotiation with you. We'll only offer you this much money, but we have child care here in the building, or we have, or you can be flexible. We have flex time. Once every 2 weeks you can work wherever you are. Once a week you can work wherever you are. We give you total flexible hours as long as you come to the regular meetings we have, whatever, right? Or it's a social thing, it's a social impact thing, and you just would rather work for a mission that you care about than make a lot of money selling your soul, right? This is happening. MBAs, there's an article recently that said social impact or corporate social responsibility is trumping salary for the contemporary next generation of MBAs. Not all of them. So we're still like, no man, give me Wall Street, right? But not all of them. And I have worked with a lot of those who really do care about the sustainability and are actually innovators of that. A lot of what's going on. So there are strategies for negotiation, but it has to do with this whole thing I'm telling you about, which is you got to look at the organizational level. You got to know what their values are. You got to pitch value. You got to know the market space, and you got to come in understanding a range. And you don't pitch low. And do not be duped by this idea that, oh, I just, I'm just so lucky to have a job, especially women. I mean, women go in and we take whatever we can get, and we're just so happy to be, working. We don't understand that, you could also say, well, what else? What else is, like, what are the professional development opportunities? Is there provision of a laptop that would otherwise cost you $2,500 or something, right? Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of other values you're going to want to negotiate in. But you do want to have a price point. You want to research what is your niche expertise valued in the marketplace as a consultant and or in comparable types of organizations in comparable locations, because that changes it. Remember, we looked at the environment, at the economic things. So there's certain areas of the country you'll get paid more, and certain areas of the country you might get paid less, but you make a trade-off because you want to be able to look over the mountains, right? Or you want to look over the ocean, whatever. So these are just things to think about, okay? So I just started thinking about what are the scenarios that I often see, to give you some examples. So when I sit down with people, somebody who's a single mom, it's really hard to be there exactly at 8:30 in the morning and stay late and be bound to the chair when stuff happens at school and or somebody gets sick, or I've got 3 kids and I got to juggle them and whatever, right? So flexibility is a big value. I want to be able to, I can totally perform, but I need some flexibility so that I can make sure I pick up my child at 3:30 and shift them over to here, and then I can come back. I mean, these are things I had to do. I worked at a university. My daughter was little. I was a single mom, so I know all about that. Young internationals want to travel, but later on in life, maybe not so much. If you have a disability, you really need an adaptive environment, right? And especially if you have that at home, they don't have it at work, you're going to need that flexibility, but you want them to honor the fact that you can still perform things, right? For our idealists of the world, social impact does often trump money, not always. I've seen quite a few people, this is what I think about SIT too, is quite a few people come here and it's all about NGOs, and I keep going, you know what though? There are corporations who are thinking about, sustainability, and they pay better, right? So you can, nowadays, you don't have to trade that out as much. Creative people, I will find them job opportunities and they're like, I don't want to have a boss. And so that's why a lot of times they're driving entrepreneur, because they aren't going to narrow themselves down to some narrow thinking person who has a power trip going on, right? I mean, forget that. The senior experts, somebody who's getting closer to that age, over 60, right? I'm not quite. I'm just like 1 year away from 60. But, oh, look at retirement, absolutely. But I want to stay relevant. I don't want to, I'm not done, right? And so we look at balancing what I want out of my retirement leisure with wanting to stay a respected member of a professional society and so forth. How do I do that? So you're negotiating something different. And it's definitely not about money so much, because some things you've gotten taken care of, and you get dual career couples. This is a big change where if you're single now, you might be married, let's see, 5 years from now? What concept? Maybe there's a baby. Oh my goodness. Now it matters where you live, where your child might go to school, where your spouse works can impact where you can work. So that's another negotiation. You see where I'm going with this? But it isn't just as linear as what we've been. The timeline I just thought was hilarious, because there's a little bit of these changing values that happen related to security and what you get out of the job and what you have to kind of fashion for yourself. So it says further, this policy has your benefits until there's nothing left, at which point it won't matter since you'll be dead. How does that sound? I'm just like, because organizations are changing and they are divesting out of the worker. It's a drag, but it's true, and I'm sorry. But it's why we have to think about the fact is we're living longer, and we have to think about our timelines, and you have to be saving, you have to be thinking about the period of your life that you can make certain types of trade-offs that you can't make later, and when you're going to have to really invest in your long-term future. And that's the strategic long-term planning part. And relationships that you will make and I guarantee you they're going to impact your thinking. I have love a little 2.5-year-old boy named Antonio. And I don't think I can ever work full time again because I want to be able to be the no-no anytime he wants, right? I want to be able to get up there and go. Okay, so for your future, this is my little list for you, but you don't have to know it all, but you can be a leader in learning. And these are the skills you're learning here. You're learning while you're in school. The people that are in positions of power right now are not comfortable with the changes they're meeting, and they're not comfortable with having to go back into being learners. They need the young people who are open-minded, open-hearted, using open technologies, thinking like solutions. You do have to negotiate with them and navigate the terrains of these changing organizations, and it isn't easy, and it will make you upset sometimes because nothing creative ever happens without conflict, but oh well, it's part of life. But we are moving into new mind maps that are intersecting these processes. We have to think short-term, long-term. We have to be adaptive. We have to be resilient. Climate change is happening. It's not going away. We as a global society are going to be in adaptation and resilience mode. And all organizations are going to be. You guys have been studying sustainability, so think about what you can bring to the table to help that work better. Cooperation and diverse partners are going to be part of your world and your team. So you might want to learn about how to lead and maximize. So what I'm teaching you is also about not just your talent, but learning about other people's talents and how you can help them maximize their talent on the job. That's a fabulous way to lead, and that's what's more needed now. And learn from every person you meet. That's how you grow interdisciplinary knowledge. Ask questions. It's a very powerful thing when you go to another culture. And we did this last time, didn't we, about the niche knowledge. We learned about the power of just asking questions of other people rather than just thinking you have to know it, right? And when you go to another culture, a lot of times for me, if I don't know the language, first I want to learn, hello, goodbye, please, thank you. And then I want to learn the word for I am learning. So I'm able to say, I go downstairs, I see Dave, and I'm like, aprendiendo. Right? Like, I don't speak Spanish. I speak a little, but not so much, right? Or when I went to Italy, parlo un poco italiano, ma imparando sempre, which means I really don't speak that much Italian, but I'm learning all the time, right? Or, let's see, Annabelle taught me, because I was going to Paris. Remember I was telling you about that conference I went to, right? And I had to learn, like, how do I say I'm learning? And she went, j'apprends. And I was like, okay. So I went there and I said it a couple times and people were like, oh, okay. Not as stupid of an American as I thought, right? So these are your next steps. We're right on 1:30. I feel so proud of myself. It's a long bit of information for you. But I hope what your takeaway is that your capstone isn't segregated from your career. So let's think about what solution what are you going to get in there and research as if it is your job. And then the solution that you can propose. Find the organizations working on that while you're studying, because you can create for yourself a huge opportunity to meet people and do information interviews as part of your research. And learn from them what projects they're working on and where they're seeing gaps, because you're going to get the ideas about where you can lead the gap. And you can ultimately, in your capstone, you're performing and proposing solutions that might later help them. And as you're cultivating sort of feedback teams, your board of advisors, you're going to stay empowered, stay relevant, stay on top of your knowledge, your niche knowledge, and so forth. Document your results and develop this portfolio, because this is your skills suitcase. You will probably, whether you decide to change it or somebody comes along and they decide to change it. My brother just called me the other day. He was like, I went away for vacation, I came back, and I don't have a job. He's working as a consultant, paid pretty well, oil company, doing monitoring devices and so forth. And okay, we're ready for the next creative career challenge, right? And you don't know when that's going to happen, so you have to be ready. And this portfolio is as if you are a consultant and you're somewhat self-employed, because we all have to be. And you create these multiple contracts. And sometimes to mitigate that and be prepared for that, you're working over here, but you've got an entrepreneurial thing going on over here. So if somebody drops your ball over here, you're not going to die in water, right? The more you understand, the more you can lead. Okay, and so that's why I say, like, the leadership now, they talk about thought leadership, it's about that. So that is what I have to offer. Is this helpful?
Yeah, sure.
It's different than what you thought I would say? No.
I think it's quick.
Yes.
I mean, Phyllis.
Hey, Pa, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm glad you were able to come in. Can you hear it? How is this working for you on the other end?
It was pretty good. It was very clear,
Good.
and I was able to see all the slides as well. So
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
Well, we're recording. Do you have any questions that for the part that you saw, or is there anything that we can?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think I will set up a time to meet with you.
Okay, good.
Because you definitely said some things that I want to talk to you more, but it's more personal to my going forward, the next step.
Sure.
So yeah, I will set up. I'll send you an email so we can set up a time and we can meet.
I will look forward to that. And
Yeah.
because I have some ideas for you as well. Well, that's kind of what we're hoping to achieve here, is that we can go over some of this material and then do the customized coaching so that we make it more directly relevant. That sounds great, Pa.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon, then.
All right.
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, we're at the
Yeah. Did you? Good.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. But the only thing I think is that it was looking at part-time work in a very positive sense.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think most people's experience of that is somewhat negative. Like,
Sure.
if it was just part-time and had all other benefits, that's great. But you're also usually making a lot less. So
That's a trade-off thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things, I said it because it's sort of to look at what the trends are in the thinking of the business people, right? In terms of what the hiring, the job creation, and that's kind of why I wanted to share this with you. I don't think that full-time jobs are gone. I mean, they make these dramatic headlines that no, that's why I put "or dying." I think it's just it's all this change we're talking about.
Yeah.
But no, I think that having full-time regular work, but I do think it's an illusion. I mean, I think that permanent, usually these contract, even permanent employees, there's an at-will kind of thing. You're going to have a 6-month probation period anyway. If it's a short-term project, maybe they just limit it to that. If you're permanent, you have the performance reviews, and there is typically an at-will. You still get fired, or you can still walk away. Sometimes change is happening, and it might be something like you love your job, but the leadership changes, and now you don't love your job so much.
One country you might want to look into is China.
Yeah.
For the past few decades, people have had kind of like stable but low-paying government jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So most people would have like kind of their own private
Yeah.
jobs on the side that they would do just on a part-time basis. But there's like this really incredible entrepreneurial spirit,
Mm-hmm.
that people have developed because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of innovation going on.
Right.
And not people's name jobs and the kind of part-time work that they.
Yeah. I think that does happen. I think that, what does our grandmas used to say? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just need some extra pay and you do that. Or sometimes you have something you really just love to do. And it starts out as recreation and then it becomes something that you can actually make money, right? Like I used to sing when I was young and I have been paid, right? Sing for weddings, or yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of things people can do that that is aside from what they do for work, right? And maybe there's some in your life you want to do that a little more, something else a little less. And sometimes people will keep both things going, right? And so it just, I think what it is just the key word is probably still adaptation, because life will throw some things that you don't expect. Some of that will come through maybe the organization, climate is going to be things we don't expect, you know. We just have to not be shocked. It's like they're predictable unpredictables in life, and some of that you can map it out and be strategic and be thoughtful and have a contingency plan and all that sort of thing. And I think you just got to be an open-hearted, open-minded, and able to create solutions sort of person. And I think there's that, right? And to be courageous, because it takes some courage sometimes to get outside of what is comfortable, right? But I don't think I think everybody's a little out of their comfort zone these days. I'm going to sign off now, and thank you guys for being here. And thanks for anybody else who's online, and we're going to hope that this recording worked. And if it does, I'm happy to share it with you later as to review. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.